planning and zoning meeting for the month of April. We'll start with roll call.
Amy Medford.
Jerome Kindred.
Charles McFarland.
Ravindra Dakal.
Felicia Wyatt.
Shawana Cowie.
The next item on the agenda is approval of February 2019 meeting minutes. Any comment board on it?
Move to approve the minutes.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, the meeting minutes passed. Next item on the agenda is our new business, but we have public hearing meeting, so I have to announce some rules for this. Any member of the public may address the planning and zoning board during the time allotted for public hearing. Each attendee will be given 3 minutes. If the public comment contains a series of questions, please provide these questions to staff in writing on the public comment card prior to the meeting. This will facilitate follow-up by the board or the staff. The planning and zoning board is desirous to allow an opportunity to public comment. However, the business of the board must proceed in an orderly and timely manner. With this, we have new business. First public hearing regarding acquisition from King Decision with Michael Life Institute Incorporated is submitting site development plan for the proposed plan cottage home development, in short CSD, consisting of 8 cottages and 0.57 acres located at 1160 Vaughan Street, Clarkston. If approved, the CSD will include 1 proportion unit and 7 for 92 SF units. Scott, your overview of this?
You don't have any more.
I have a question. I would like a piece of paper with the information on it. Is there no more?
There, the handouts, if there are no more back there, then all of the audience has received one.
I got it.
Thank you. Kim Bushero with Micro Life Institute has submitted an application and development plans to be reviewed as planned 8-unit cottage home development. Currently, the parcel is located at 1160 Bond Street and is zoned NR3, high density neighborhood residential. The NR3 zoning district is intended for single family and multifamily residences at a greater distance on smaller lots in order to provide for a variety of housing types, including cluster homes. This district may serve as a transitional zone between light commercial, office uses, and districts reserved for lower density single family uses. The request is for the approval of the cottage housing development that will consist of 8 new units that will include 1 unit at 247 square feet and 7 units at 492. Again, the requested CHD, cottage housing development, is allowed within the zoning classification. Staff did recommend approval. When any request is made for planned unit development to construct 2 or more buildings on a tract or several tracts of land, the following points will be reviewed as follows. Is the proposed development suitable in the view of the use and development of adjacent or nearby property? Does the proposed development adversely affect the existing use or usability of adjacent or nearby property? Does the proposed development result in a use which will or could cause an excessive or burdensome use of existing streets, transportation facilities, utilities, or schools? Are there other existing or changing conditions which, because of their impact on the public health, safety, morality, and general welfare of the community, give supporting grounds for either the approval or denial of the proposed development? Staff did recommend conditionally approving the cottage housing development request submitted with the following conditions. Total of 17,152 square feet of common space, common open space. Common areas shall be required and shall be jointly owned by the owners of the individual parcels within the CHD. Yards along the exterior boundaries of the CHD shall not be less than 5 feet in width. An OPEC landscaped buffer shall be produced on the sides of the properties that abut Bond Street and Smith Street. The applicant shall adhere to the Metropolitan North Georgia Water Planning District and Georgia Stormwater Management Manual requirements. The parking lot lighting shall be properly illuminated for the safety of pedestrians, vehicles, and for safety. The lighting shall not reflect onto or cause glare in any adjacent residential district. Each 12 automobile parking spaces shall not be less than 9 feet by 20 feet deep. Compact spaces shall not be less than 8 by 15. The one handicap parking space shall be a minimum of 8 by 20 and shall have adjacent access aisles with a minimum width of 5 feet. Unenclosed front porches may not be used for storing any materials. No uses which emit odors, fumes, or continuous loud music are permitted. And no certificate of occupancy shall be issued unless the final plat of said property in which the buildings have been submitted, reviewed, accepted, and recorded. Recording of the covenants and final plat shall create a separate lot for each dwelling place and subject each lot in the development of private deed covenants that assure the continuance of the CHD as originally approved and developed with the required maintenance of the common areas. And until the city has accepted the section of streets associated with this development, which is Bond Street and Smith Street, with this development as open or have otherwise received legal status of the streets, and unless such streets correspond in its location and lines with the streets shown on a final plat, the city will not accept the layout, open improvement, grade, pave, or light of the unopened sections of any street, or authorize the laying of any water main, sewer connections, or other facilities or utilities. That is the 12 conditional conditions. The applicant is here if you have any additional questions for her, Mr. Chairman.
Now I'd like to request the representative from Microlife Institute to come forward, introduce yourself, and present your case.
Yes, sir. Good evening, and thank you all for having me. My name is Kim Buchero, and I am with the Microlife Institute, and we're excited to be presenting this today, this evening. As we have said, we're proposing 8 units on the parcel. As the site plan shows, they'll surround the common green. And I've looked at each of the conditions that were recommended. I don't think any of them should be a problem, but I need a little clarification what the last one means. But yes, but in general, they sound very reasonable and consistent with our intentions. We have covenants that will take care of a lot of those odors, and it sounds that HOA covenants will be recorded that prohibit such things, and so we'll be happy to make sure that that exact language is included. The buffer, the landscape buffer, we had intended to do some landscape screening anyhow to create privacy for the adjacent neighbors and to be respectful of them. So that's not an issue. If you have any questions, I'm here.
Clarification on condition number 12 is that currently Smith Street is for ingress and egress and utility easement, which the city has to agree to for that easement. And also, since Bond Street is currently unopened, either the city will designate that as a regular public street, or it may have to be abandoned. So that is what we'll have to discuss with the applicant, whether it should be abandoned or utilized as a regular public street.
Okay, great. And just to clarify, so everyone's aware, our access, our vehicular access would come in on Bond Street. So Smith Street is really just pedestrian, and it's not super necessary. It's really just the utilities. We mentioned it so that there might be access to the public park area that we're proposing to help to install together with that easement. We don't actually need vehicular access. That would distort the entire intent of it being a public space that's improved for public use.
All right. Now we're opening this meeting for public hearing. Just reminding the rules again, 3 minutes limitation. Just limit yourself to 3 minutes to talk. If you have any other question, please submit in your cards right there in the corner. Those of you who want to against the motion, please introduce yourself, come to the podium and express your views.
I'm confused, so you can express your
They don't
views
have any more.
in a
They
positive
were
way?
wrong.
No, listen, they only those that are against.
This is,
Against, and then we come.
we're gonna do against, and then we're gonna do for.
Warren Hadlock, 1210 West Smith Street. I'm going to say I'm formally against it. I'm concerned. I heard you say. I heard Shawana, you say something about perhaps the street, the unused current right-of-way extension of Smith Street. Is that Warren Street? Is that what that is? I'm concerned as to whether that is what you're talking about when you're saying whether or not it should be abandoned. Bond Street doesn't currently exist beyond the end of that big mega house there. So if that's the area beyond that,
You're wrong.
I'm concerned about how that would be abandoned, what it would be used for, what the city would get in exchange for it. That's a good piece of property. Also, I'm concerned, being as my house is right through the woods from there, about the noise from 8 units that will be more than likely owned by young folk. When you say no loud noise, I don't hear a decibel put on that. Is there a decibel level that is beyond which is considered to be illegal? And is that what you're talking about? Those two things just struck me coming in. I don't have a copy of these things. We ran out of them. You got more people than you had copies.
Everybody gets those but me.
It's a sort of stand by itself little thing there, although it is once again surrounded by a single family housing that's considerably larger stock. And of course, it doesn't go with that mega mansion any more than that mega mansion goes with anything else in that lovely little neighborhood up there. That's all I have to say.
I know you were here.
Anyone else against?
So,
My name is Desvan Katima.
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
My name is Desvan Katima. I just bought a lot behind this property last year, at the end of last year. So I'm planning to build a single home to live there because I used to live in Clarkson. So now I moved, like 5 years ago, I moved to Stone Mountain, but I like to go back to live in Clarkson because I love Clarkson, So I'm planning to live behind this property to have a 3-4 bedroom and with my kids. So my concern is that, I'm gonna have a huge apartment. That's what I think on my head. Because I was running from the apartment, and now when I try to bought the land, I will try to build a house, and then boom, I found that somebody's going to build building a tiny house behind my property. So my concern is that, first of all, the Bond Street is very little street that even 2 cars is very hard to move around. The second thing is that, the weather or the area that the single family is going to live with these 8 tiny houses. I don't know how the people is going to be there. People, how much, the sound, the light, the traffic. And my entrance is exactly behind that liquor store to my house. So I'm just concerned, how this is gonna happen. And I was shocked, so I don't think it's a good idea for me, but very tiny little, and it has a house, So I'm just, I'm against the plan. Thanks so much.
Good evening. My name is Pat Davis Morris, and I live on Lincoln Street in Clarkston. Just give me a minute to find out, are you talking about building the 8 units on the property at the end of Bond Street where it dead ends? Or,
Yes.
I heard the gentleman say, pretty much close behind the liquor store. That would be before you get to the end of it, but you're talking about at the end.
Behind it.
Okay. Now, abandoning, Shimon, what were you referencing to? I didn't hear all of it. Abandoning a street or just what?
In Bond Street is a public street up into the home that's at 1150 Bond Street. But the part that's associated with the development itself is an unopened right of way for that street. So the rest of Bond Street is not open, but it is still a public street, but it's not designed that way now, the way that the development has it incorporated for like stormwater. No,
No, we don't have any improvements other than just the extension of the street, which normally a city would pay for that, but we've offered, because we don't expect you to pay for a street that you would need otherwise, we've offered to pave it as part of the development, but we won't be utilizing any of that space for our stormwater or anything.
and that's what we mean by unopened, because it's not paved and it's not used at this moment. So if they were to do any part of development on that street, it will have to be some type of improvements or abandonment from the development on into the cottage home development.
8 cottages, is it that large? And what would be the lot size for each cottage? You're talking about a 450 square foot cottage, is that what you're saying?
Tiny homes.
Tiny homes, is that single level?
Yes.
One level? And you're gonna put 8 on that lot? So what type of green space would you have or parking spaces?
It's 12 parking spaces that is included in the plan.
12 parking
It's
spaces.
gonna have 17,000 square feet of green space. So open will be 1,700, excuse me.
Yeah, really.
Square, sorry, 1,700 square feet of open space.
1,000, yeah.
How could
It
you
is
get
17,000.
17,000? You got 0.5.
Because most of the trees,
Yes,
percentage of
yes.
the
sorry.
lot will incorporate the trees that are already there. Actually, in a cottage, in this development, open space is not a requirement in the NR3 zoning category, but the developer has suggested that amount of open space.
So what, a tree?
Wait a minute, this miss.
Anything else?
Yes, my question is, so if you're, I think I heard someone say extended Bond Street. How would you extend Bond Street?
Actually, the right-of-way is actually the right-of-way from the street. It dead ends currently now at 1150 Bond Street. There is a house that the gentleman has, where it's an open lot that he would like to build a house. And then it's another house next to that one, and then it's the one that dead ends at 1150 Bond Street. Right now, the right-of-way is unopened, and that means it does not have street access to it. It just dead ends there. They will have to open that right-of-way to have access to that property.
And I know it was mentioned in one meeting before on a potential easement on that property that the city owns.
That
On
access from
Smith
Smith Street, yes.
To give access to that development. Well, I'm definitely against that, because I don't know if proper study has been done as to the impact that we already have with church parking, with residential parking, because we have some houses there that are probably already 600 square feet right there, and they don't have parking space. So many times they're parking on the street, and that little connection is in a curve. You know, Shawana, where it is. And when you have that, and that is the street that your children in the neighborhood congregate to, and they play on. So that's a dangerous thing right there. We have to make note of all those impacts. So I'm definitely against that easement there to Smith Street. Otherwise, I think Martha mentioned it as well. If you're going to do that and have access to Smith Street, think about doing it only on an emergency situation, gating it off and using it only in an emergency, but not for other cars to access Smith Street. You have enough traffic going in there.
And I think that the applicant did mention that ingress and egress and stormwater utility easement will be for that cause. No vehicles will be on that.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you. Anyone speaking against the motion? All right. Anyone for the motion?
My name is Martha Brown, and it's intense for me to be here. I'm going to keep it together. I just want to say that I appreciate all of you. I'm okay. No, I'm fine. I would prefer to be alone. Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you for the opportunity for us to weigh in on this. I believe it's unfortunate that we have an against and a for. It's tough to really, sometimes when you just want to ask questions, to just become knowledgeable and find a nice mindful balance. I think one of my experiences in Clarkson is that there has been a lack of mindfulness to the residents, and it's nice that Clarkson is growing and educating and being more progressive and slowing down and taking the neighborhoods into account. A lot of the, Kim addressed some of the things that in our neighborhood we discussed about, and it was, one of the main things was the impact of Smith Street, and that has already been addressed. One of the things that has not been addressed continually in our neighborhood is the zoning and the high impact of the church that's over fire code and everything. So I think we deal with that weekly, several times a week. So if the developer is going to do this, I think collectively that's something that should synergistically be addressed. Because if there was to be an emergency vehicle needing to go into that back entrance on Smith, it might not make it. So that is something that I think will be positive as this development comes to light, because it'll also raise up the standard of things that are being neglected in our neighborhood. So the fact that it is just an emergency or pedestrian entrance or exit puts us at a peace of mind. Also, Kim mentioned the buffer zone, which I think is a very big concern in our neighborhood. We are a very pocketed neighborhood, and we don't really want to open that portal for Warren, who's on the back side of that, our neighborhood. So keeping the green, the buffer zone, the trees, that is a huge, huge plus, because it'll just be a further headache for the city, and it'll be tough for the developer to actually get people to move in and feel safe. The other thing that I was concerned about, being the nature person I am, I really wanted to know about has there been a study of the hardwoods and the trees that will be protected and the trees that will be taken down, and what is going on with that? Because I'm not sure if you mentioned the tree ordinance in this, and how it will go into that, because right now that is really clearly attached to really on the edge of Friendship Forest and the buffer zone, but also it houses a lot of habitat, and it's also very comforting noise-wise from Ponce de Leon. While change is very scary for everybody, we can start to embrace change if it's done mindfully, and possibly this developer could actually walk into our neighborhood, talk about things with people. I do feel like just doing things on paper and emails, it's progressive, but also it's not, because of the way things happen in Clarkston and the way people feel left out. So I personally think it could be a really positive step if done mindfully, and like I said, there's a lot of vagrancy right behind the liquor store, and I understand the gentleman that just bought the lot, but I think that if people are moving into this street, if we're starting to pick up our streets, be more mindful about development, and not maybe look at it as development, but raising the standard of things that are, you know, more positive. We need to bring revenue, we need to bring more progressive people into Clarkston. Sorry. Anyway, I personally, as long as we stay on top of the agreement and on top of the buffer zone, using Smith Street minimalistically and synergistically, possibly finally addressing the church in our neighborhood, and hopefully it'll help get rid of the vagrancy behind the liquor store. I'm all for progression that's dealing with green space and mindful about green space.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Beverly Burks. I'm kind of neutral on this one, but I did have a question in terms of, does this have an HOA?
Yes.
Okay. And so with that HOA, are they responsible for maintaining the road as part of it? And then what, in terms of the rental, what is the percentage?
It's one rental. That's right.
It's just one rental? Okay. And did you guys, in terms of that, that was kind of what my concern is, making sure that there's ongoing maintenance because they are tiny homes, and not saying anything about the quality, but over time, I've seen that as being an issue with tiny homes, that the maintenance is very important, so there needs to be some type of stipulation in terms of that ongoing maintenance for, and especially since it's such a concentrated area and a small area. So that's kind of one of my bigger concerns, is that with some of the HOAs and some of how those tiny home areas are situated, they don't have provisions to ensure that over time there's some type of maintenance and upkeep with that, and especially if you're looking at a 247 square foot place, you want to make sure that there's a lot of upkeep and maintenance, not only from the structure but also the green space, and so making sure those provisions are in there. That's the biggest thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Has it been addressed as to how many can be occupied, how many?
Well, I'm gonna address that after this, okay?
That's the good.
Because that's very important,
Very.
especially in Clarkston.
I'm Dean Carroll. I worked on the tiny home ordinance about 2 years ago with Ken and Will and some other people, so I'm excited to see this finally come into fruition, because I know a lot of people are waiting for it for a long time. I have heard a lot of interest from people in Clarkston that are interested in looking at tiny homes, particularly people that may not have as much stuff to store and may just be a single person that could fit into a smaller space and wants a more affordable option. So I'm excited to see this come into place. I'm excited to see the attention being paid to all the different issues with traffic and maintenance and trees and having the turnaround at Bond Street. Hopefully that will improve the emergency vehicle access as well.
Thank you. Anyone else we have for the motion? You want to clarify?
Well, we have a chance.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, great.
You have a question?
No, I just wanted to address some of the things that came up since I tried to keep my
No, go ahead.
time
Yeah,
short.
go ahead.
Thank you. As some of you know, this has been in process for a long time, and I apologize. We probably should have done another community outreach, so that's just bad on us. We actually had a community meeting, it's probably almost been 2 years ago at Refuge Copy to solicit community input. And we had some really great ideas, and we also did a charrette with the architect in the early design stages, and there were a couple of Clarkston residents that came to that. And so we tried our best to include the community in it, but it's been so long, you know, we really, the time frame wise, we should have had another meeting. We're happy to do that. If that's just a opening question session outside of this, we're happy to do that. We were actually talking about maybe May 1st having something to specifically talk about the easement parcel and, you know, kind of what we could do to help improve it for the city and get resident input on that. So that's something that we were thinking about anyhow. Another thing that I'd like to say is we are excited about the Bond Street being the only access. One of the things that the DeKalb County Fire will require is extending the street further than we actually need it, so that it can have fire access turnaround. And so it's also emergency vehicle turnaround. So right now, you know, while there aren't too many homes, if the new homes built on Bond, it will also benefit from that. So that was something we were excited to be able to offer as a benefit. And then obviously no cars will be coming in on Smith Street. There should be no need for anyone to park or even access. So if the council prefers to not do a pedestrian easement, that's totally fine. We are definitely fine with that. We have no intention of parking on that. And so with the HOA covenants, you know, we have requirements that homeowners maintain the exterior facades and maintain their yards, and if they don't do that, the HOA can fine them, and then if they don't fix it within a reasonable amount of time, fix it for them and send them the bill. We're also using, it's included I think in the application, the materials that we're choosing. We're using more long-lasting materials, so we'll be using, you know, a Hardy plank, a brand of cement board, not necessarily Hardy, but a comparable cement board that's pre-painted in the factory. So they have a really long lifespan for the painting, so they shouldn't need to be painted for many, many years, which helps. But also the exciting thing about these smaller communities and the pocket neighborhoods that we see across the country is they draw people that really are proud of their space. Because it's so small, you have to really take care of it, because you don't have room for mess. If you have any mess or clutter, it just becomes unlivable, especially inside. So I think it draws people that are really conscious about that, and when you're so close to your neighbors within that development, it's designed so that you're going to interact with the neighbors on the front porches. We were inspired by Ross Chapin, who's like the father of pocket neighborhoods, and so it's designed in a way that it inspires people to really take care of their space and to be proud of it. The HOA covenants will also require that. I just wanted to say, you know, we're very excited about the fact that the HOA covenants hopefully won't ever have to be, you know, mandated to be enforced. And I think I had another note. In terms of what's allowed on the property, just because I know a lot of people don't really understand the zoning, and until I really got into it, I didn't either. But if we were going to build a regular house on this property, you know, we could build a bigger floor area ratio, so like a bigger square footage of the actual house than what we're taking up with these 8 smaller homes. And the people that are interested in these homes right now, every single one of them that I know right now, it's a single individual. So we're not expecting large families to move in. So that's just kind of the going demographics that are interested in a smaller space. We did do a tree survey. I'm happy to make that public. Gunnison Trees came out and marked every single tree, and then our land surveyor put that on the survey. I don't think it was, no, it's in the engineering plan. Yeah, so I'm sorry. So that's available if anyone wants to see it. I'm happy to share it or talk about it. We've also hired permaculture landscape design, which permaculture is a type of design landscaping that uses nature. It follows nature, so it's inspired by nature. So they